So I definitely do think whoever was behind editing and fact checking was off sick that day. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, my name's Tori. So I changed my hair, I've been missing for a month, there's been so much going on. We went for a Cruella de Vil moment with my hair. If you don't follow me on TikTok and Instagram, this is gonna come as a shock and I really recommend you go follow me. But basically earlier this week, a documentary filmed by Channel 4 was released, which your girl featured on, but we'll get to that. But yeah, I've been talking about it over on my TikTok and Instagram. I've definitely been a bit more serious over there. Today I kind of just want to talk about my experience, answer some questions, go through some comments. But my initial statement is over there if you do want to go check it out. So if you haven't already seen, Channel 4 released a documentary called Exposing the Exotic Pet Trade, or The Exotic Pet Trade Exposed, where they interviewed myself as well as a few other influencers. I hate that word, it makes me feel violently ill. Their words, not mine, but essentially social media content creators, specifically kind of younger people. They had myself, they had Birdman from TikTok who has the 2 macaws, they had Kyle Thomas, as well as interviewing some vets, and you know, go watch it if you'd like. And you'll get to see my 90-second segment, so go check it out. Jokes aside, I filmed this documentary back in September. It's now November, so this was a good few months ago. I obviously look completely different. And the filming process was super fun. Lots of people asked me about that. Honestly, it was a full busy day, but it was fine. It was actually the hottest day of the year, so that was a bit long in terms of being on camera and obviously not seeing what I look like, which was sweaty, let me tell you that. But we did a full day's filming. The crew was all really nice. The presenter I met was really nice. The whole thing was fine. It was a new experience for me. I've never been in content that's been filmed by somebody else before. I've also never been in content that's been edited by somebody else before. The whole point of me being in it, or the reason I wanted to be in it, was to best represent the reptile keeping community in a really ethical way. I was contacted as well as some mutuals on TikTok who didn't actually end up being in it. I was hoping I could, you know, at least kind of marginally balance out the negative bias. That didn't really happen, but it was a fun day. It was a learning curve and I wouldn't take back being in it. A few people have asked me about that, whether I regret it. No. If I wasn't in it, then potentially somebody else would have been in it, and I was very, very careful with what I said and how I presented. And you can honestly look around all my enclosures. I'm super, super proud of everything I do and how I keep these animals. So I was more than happy for them to, you know, film my house, film my enclosures. They weren't included. But I was really hoping that my involvement would balance out the narrative. Again, didn't happen. I think unfortunately the media has and always will have a very negative stigma towards reptile keeping, reptiles in general. There is always going to be a movement towards animals being banned, and they are going to start with the weaker spots, aka breeds of dogs that have potentially shown some signs of aggression, like the XL bully, which has now been banned, and scaly animals, you know, the ones that aren't really understood by the mass majority of the community. We're definitely a weak spot that people can target. I think the things we can learn from this is that what we upload onto social media can and will be used by activists who want to take the privilege of keeping reptiles away, and that's exactly what they did. Go watch the documentary. It is tons and tons of clips from people on social media using animals as an advantage for their own views, for their own shock factor. I kind of touch on that briefly in the documentary. I say that people put things on social media for the views. Like snakes striking at cameras, they don't naturally do that. They're being agitated for the views, and I felt like that was some of the negatives that come with social media and reptile keeping. They didn't really talk about the positives all that much, but I definitely think there are positives and things that we can do and post to make the community seem better than it is. Not seem better, seem as good as it is. But yeah, so the process of filming was fun. The presenter, lovely. The producers were amazing. I never felt uncomfortable. I am a bit of a nervous person. I can get a bit anxious sometimes, and don't get it wrong, it was really intimidating. You know, we were mic'd up. We had to do things like we were filming shots like of us walking somewhere, and we had to redo the shot over and over again from every single angle, and it never even touched the screen. So I'm like, Is this what TV's like? Is this what being in TV's like? Because I don't want it. I don't want it. Although saying that, I am hoping to be a part of something where we can hopefully portray reptile keeping as what it is, which is an amazing community, a lot more positive than Channel 4 made it out to be. And if anyone watching this is a producer and would like to help, please do let me know. We spoke about a lot of things. I answered a lot of questions. We spoke on and off camera as well. As I said, genuinely just a fun, cool experience. And we spoke about a lot of things, you know. We spoke about starter animals and beginner animals and what I thought about that and how much research goes into them. I spoke about ethical keeping and resources for people to find information. I spoke about what my mission is on social media and how I'm trying to, you know, put out content that is not only just fun and interesting to watch, but promotes ethical care. We spoke about some of the downsides of social media, the positives of social media. We spoke about how I got into animals. We spoke about IHS, which did come up in the show, however, they didn't include anything of me speaking on it. That was the only thing that kind of wound me up the wrong way when I watched it, is there is a whole segment longer than my segment where they go undercover into an IHS show, which is the big reptile show that we have in the UK. They go in undercover and they basically say how this is illegal and you know, it was banned 40 years ago, which isn't true. I won't bore you with all the details of the laws, but this was clarified again in 2018 that it's not illegal. They'd actually gone to this show in May and I didn't meet them until September, and I spoke to them about these shows. So you know when you feel like if you wanted to disprove that, if you wanted to actually have a balanced argument, then you would have spoke to me and got me to disprove things. So I don't really feel like that was their aim. I feel like it was always going to be kind of negative against reptile keepers. They normally always are. That's why I love making content on my own platform where I can show, edit, talk freely, you know. Kind of ironic to me that a lot of what they were explaining or trying to show in the documentary is that social media only shows one side of pet ownership. It doesn't show the care and the money and the time. Meanwhile, they're only including my content, like one side of it, and they're only including one side of this whole exotic pet argument. Slightly contradictory, but what can you do? I also, of course, gave them full access to use all of my content. I gave them full access to use all of my content, and they chose to utilise only the videos of which feature me bringing a new pet home, which kind of feeds into that stigma of, oh my god, young girl, so many animals, doesn't know what she's doing. Here's a TikTok where she unboxes 3 pets, I say, but they're spiderling tarantulas. And they cut out the part where they said it was tarantulas and made it look like, you know, she has 30 reptiles, unbox all my pets with me. Rewind, play the rest of the TikTok. Listen, I'm not an idiot. I know that they only have 25 minutes or however long they have in the documentary. It was just frustrating for me to watch it and then to read the comments and to know that they couldn't have made those comments had they have seen the rest of the clip. That's what TV's like, apparently. Yeah, it was definitely one-sided. It definitely, I really hope that, you know, one day a media company is going to really want to dive into the opposite side of this. I'd love to be involved in something. I know there's a few like short pieces of content coming over the next few weeks of which I've been asked and offered to be a part of, so maybe they will come out. Now, when I first filmed this video right here, I was very serious. I was very like quite annoyed, quite disappointed, and now like upon reflection, I'm like, it was kind of always going to happen. I think I don't think that day will ever come when the majority of people on this planet will understand the reptile keeping community, and maybe that's okay. Maybe I want to keep it to myself and my fellow friends. Like maybe just I'm done fighting that fight, I think, for a minute. Like maybe I'll just be a weirdo and that's okay. So I've kind of like, I'm gonna leave the seriousness up to my TikTok, my Instagram. I've posted my statement now. I've said what I needed to say. If you want to go check that out, you can. I will leave it linked in the description. I think it'll be a lot more fun and a lot more lighthearted if we discuss the documentary from the point of view of the commenters. Because if you're watching this and you've made it this far, you're probably into reptiles or animals or me. So these are all comments left on the YouTube video that Channel 4 posted. Okay, the top comment. That poor marmoset at the start. What an evil cow of an owner. True. I personally don't really think primates should be kept as pets unless you have an enormous amount of space. Very similar to the way I feel about very large lizards, very large snakes. I think they take a very, very few percentage of the population is able to own these animals, and she wasn't it, and she represents them really poorly. I think that you should need some sort of licensing. Personally, that's where I draw the line. But again, I would have loved to have seen somebody who keeps marmosets as pets well, because as someone in the reptile keeping community where I've just seen the negatives, I would like to see someone who has kept a primate really well. Anyway, I'm also not saying that all these comments were necessarily targeted towards me. A lot of them put me and the other influencers into influencers. A lot of people put me and the other social media characters in this documentary together. So I'm not saying they're talking about me, but they could be. This is literally everything that is wrong with society now. Just money, fame and attention. Pathetic, sad and disgusting. First of all, I would love to know how much of these people think that I make money-wise from social media, because it's not a lot. It's nothing, actually. It's not even gonna afford my crickets monthly, so there you go. They're not real advocates for these animals, just desperately exploiting animals till they can afford to do it correctly, either on purpose or ignorantly blinded by the gratification of strangers. And the top reply says, Tori is amazing. No, is all that I have to respond to that. I mean, if you go and check out my content, as I said, the documentary didn't include really what content I produce over here on TikTok, everywhere. Even in the documentary, there is a very short clip about me talking about what people don't consider when getting an animal, including like energy bills or the size of that animal when it becomes an adult. I talk about a bunch of stuff on my personal channel, so personally I don't think that's true, but you are allowed your opinion. 9 times out of 10, breeders will fully quiz you on your knowledge to make sure you're going to take care of their animals. Very true. So I've been to IHS a few times. If you go and watch the documentary, they show a specific couple of breeders not really representing the community very well. I think again, it could have been taken out of context. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I didn't even know they were going to do this. But what I will say is I've been to IHS and seen examples of people who have provided mini little habitats for all of their geckos. They've provided care guides. They've got sheets on the table. Certain people will ask to see pictures of enclosures. People will ask you questions. So I don't think bad eggs should represent a community, and I don't think they went around enough and showed some of the good stuff I see at IHS. I've learned some stuff at shows. I personally would love to see an improvement on shows, and again, would have spoke about this. I personally think that there's some elevation to be done. I think the same about crafts. I think the same about a lot of big animal shows, that there's things that we could do to make them better. And I think we're on that kind of journey. You know, I'd love to see a few changes from IHS. However, that was a bad example. There are people there that won't even sell the animals, and they'll just hand out leaflets or whatever. You can put down deposits on animals if you're not ready to take them home, and they will then send them to you. There's a bunch of things. But yeah, I think unfortunately it was just a very bad example. Yet more proof that YouTube, TikTok and social media needs to crack down way too much of this crap. Just falls through the cracks and people make money off it. I don't make any money. Okay? As somebody who's owned snakes, they are super easy and cheap to keep. However, they live for 20 to 30 years. Will you still want that snake in 10 years time? Probably not. Okay, first of all, not really cheap or easy, I would say. And second of all, yeah, they are my children. Of course I want them in 20 years time. I hope they are around in 20 years time. Would they keep them if social media didn't exist? Let me tell you something, Andy. I have had animals way before I started posting on social media. I have a lot of animals. I promise you now, there are people with a lot more animals than me that don't post on social media. But guess what? You don't know or see about them because they don't post on social media. I don't post on social media to afford or to pay for my animals that I have. I post on social media to educate and help, and because it's fun. I've had these animals before. I would still have these animals if this didn't exist. And there are people doing better than me, worse than me, more animals than me, less animals than me, that you don't know about because you don't see it online. But because I bothered to put my face on the internet, they're like, oh, they wouldn't do this. Oh, babes, I've been here. I've had these tags behind me before I ever bought a camera, so Go away. They should ban keeping monkeys. I would love to comment, but I didn't see both sides of the monkey argument. So let's cancel Kyle Thomas. How to get him behind bars. Oh, Kyle. I was disappointed by his segment for sure. I think he really could have said some better things. I also don't exactly love his content. I don't think he ever shows any of his enclosures. I don't think he really talks about care. Again, I don't really follow or watch much of his stuff. Yeah, I don't think he's very educational. I think he makes money. I haven't personally ever seen where he keeps his animals. Take with that what you will. What I will say though is that this boy is 19 years old. I don't know how old he was when he got most of these animals. Like, would he have been under 18? Like, how old has he been 19 for? I think he's a bit young to be cancelled and like locked behind bars, but I do think he really needs to think about what he's putting on social media, because it is permanent and you may not think you're influencing anyone. At least, I'm not saying in every video you have to disclaim how hard owning a monkey is. People shouldn't be so influenced that they see a TikTok and go out and buy a monkey, but it would be good to see the level of care and work and money it takes to look after them, and maybe that would put some people off of trying to get them. This isn't the UK, not a chance. I can assure you it is. Saying 75% of reptiles die in the first year is completely inaccurate. Very biased program. Very true. This has been disproven. I'll actually link that video as well down in the description. This has been disproven a bunch of times and is a big myth, so I don't know why they said that, because that's not true. Same with IHS and IHS being an illegal event. It's not true. So I definitely do think whoever was behind editing and fact checking was off sick that day. As usual, a documentary from the animal activist point of view. 100% agree. I would love to see another side. IHS is a regulated event which has on-site vets and welfare. That is 100% correct. She uses, this one's definitely for me because I was the only female. She uses her TikTok to flash her baps, get easy money and not get a real job. My favourite thing about this Brian, my favourite thing is he says my job. I'm on screen for 2 minutes, and within those 2 minutes, you were so busy staring at me that you didn't listen to him talk about my job. So that one's on you. And these people need to get real jobs. Again, listen to it back, and you'll hear it. Someone says, you were brilliant. Thank you so much. I do really appreciate the positive reactions I did get, and people could obviously see that I was trying my best with the time that I was given, which wasn't a lot. I said about 20 words, but I'm happy that they were the ones that were included. I'm sure I would have been in there a lot more had my care and my answers not been what they were, but I would rather have been in there for less time, being 100% my authentic self, than more screen time. I don't think I've ever seen a documentary that has had both sides of the argument. I was kind of hoping this is what this was going to be, but it wasn't. I would love to see it though, so if anyone, ITV, you want to hit up your girl Netflix, I'm available. Like, the way that they're leaving these comments about me being famous and rich is very funny. Like, I can barely go to the supermarket anymore, you know? So those are some of the comments. So you get the kind of gist. Like, obviously this documentary is going to be shown to a lot of people who are not in the reptile community, don't really understand it, and are going to have those kind of reactions when you watch that kind of documentary. It's funny, in the documentary I actually mentioned that people like me who post ethical keeping content don't get as many views because we haven't got that shock factor. Meanwhile, this whole documentary is basically about the shock factor and therefore getting more views. So I get it. I know that's kind of what they have to do to get the people to watch the documentary, so who do we blame? Anyway guys, I hope that answers some of your questions. I also hope it puts a bit more of a light-hearted spin on things. I know it's been a bit of a crazy week over on Instagram and TikTok. I want to work on some fun content. I want to bring back the positive mental attitude I had going into this documentary. I want to come out, make some content, show you guys that, you know, reptile keeping is fun, it's not weird, or maybe it can be and we'll just keep it to ourselves. And I'm definitely coming back with more videos this time, I promise. I've just had a bit of a hiatus following this documentary and just everything else that's kind of been going on. I did film a video in there, deleted all the footage, classic. But anyway guys, everything we spoke about, including the documentary, a few people's responses, just everything will be down in the description below. I'd love to hear what you guys thought about it, what your opinions were. Leave a comment below, we can chat. Thank you so much for everyone who has supported me as well. I do really appreciate it. It doesn't go unnoticed. And yeah, love you all, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.